Hello, my name is Gwion, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I built my multi-gauge test track for testing my various scale locomotives. So without further ado, let's get started. I began by taking a piece of pine wood measuring 200 by 700 millimeters from my local timber merchant, and then proceeded to sand down the edges to remove any potential splinters. Once the edges had been sanded down, I coated the wood with some grey car primer, making sure to cover all the sides with an even coat. I chose grey primer because it's going to give me a good neutral base colour, which should be really useful for when I'm filming models on it. Now of course this isn't going to be much of a test track without any track for it, so for my test track I decided to use lengths of O, OO and N, as that covers virtually every gauge of model in my collection. While laying the track, I used a steel meter ruler to make sure that the track was straight, and then using my pin vise I started drilling holes at regular intervals. I only drilled part of the way before inserting a nail and then hammering it the rest of the way in. However, after doing a couple of holes, I realised that the pin vise wasn't going to really cut it, so I grabbed an Archimedes screw and continued drilling and hammering the rest of the nails in. Once all three tracks had been laid, I took my hammer and tapped the ends of the rails until they were flush with the end of the board, so that they wouldn't catch on anything while being moved around. Turning to the other end, I started trimming the excess track using a pair of wire cutters, but when I started cutting the thicker Code 100 00 rail, I was quickly reminded why you should never use cheap wire cutters to cut rail. Fortunately I have a rotary tool to hand, and with a cutting disc I was able to cut the remaining rails with no problems at all. Moving on to the wiring, I start by applying some solder paste. I find solder paste significantly easier to use rather than traditional soldered wire because I don't need an extra set of hands to hold it. The paste also is mixed with a flux, allowing for a good flow when melted. It's then just a case of positioning the wire and applying the iron to melt the solder. To keep the wires tidy, I'm using some zip ties along with some adhesive tie-down points. This didn't end up being the cleanest solution, but functionally it does a good job. Maybe at some point in the future I'll revisit this and I'll go back and route a small channel along the edge and then run the wires through that for a tidier job. Now we're coming to the end. I grouped the wires into 2 pairs before screwing them into a screw terminal. Ideally I would use a quick connector for convenience, but I only had this lying around at the time. So it will have to do for now until I can get hold of the quick connector. And that's it. It's now just a matter of grabbing a model and giving it a quick test.
So there we have it, my multi-gauge test track. You can see I've loaded it up with a couple of different locos. We've got an O gauge Terrier along with a double O gauge 1400 and an N gauge pannier tank. But it's not to say that these are the only scales of models you can use. Despite the 3 gauges of track, there is a number of different scales we can use. In the case of in the case of N gauge, we have the N as well as 009 or 09. In 00 we have HO, O16.5 and ON30, and even with O gauge we can run a little bit of SM32. So there's a lot of versatility with this test track. There's nothing else to say but thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe for more videos like this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.